Welcome, one and all, to this very special episode of the H3H3 podcast. This time we're fortunate enough to have been graced with the presence of iDubbbz and Anissa, three legendary YouTubers and Anissa, coming together for a podcast. I wonder what they'll talk about. Boxing. For most of this 3.5 hour video, they mainly discuss Ian's creator clash, which hadn't yet happened when this particular episode was recorded. I won't go too much into the creator clash, but I must give kudos to Ian for at least putting up some semblance of effort, unlike Aaron Hansen and that dude from Super Mega, so well done Ian. Shame Sam Hyde wasn't allowed to attend, seeing as he sparked your interest in pugilism.
Headshots, go.
Towards the end of the episode, they start to talk about the content they made in the past and some of the things they say really don't sit well with me. Do you remember the days when Ethan and Ian actually put effort into making fun and interesting content? The very content that earned them the love of millions of people? Neither do they. The ego all four of them are displaying here is just unimaginable, and it's very hard to believe that this comes just 5 years after the last time iDubbbz was on the podcast. Remember that episode? The one where Ethan dropped the N-bomb as many times as he could and then said he loved freedom of speech? They say that your personality changes every 10 years, but I suppose that gets halved if you're a YouTuber. They start talking about their past content like it was just edgy, offensive humour, and they seem to come across as ashamed of it. But that type of content was what made them popular, and for most people it's what they want to see them make again. The picture these four try to paint is that they've matured, they've passed the need for that kind of humour, and they think people are angry at them for not doing edgy stuff anymore. Now, that's going to be true for a lot of people, and I honestly can't blame them, but as an ex-fan of these former princes of YouTube, allow me to offer another reason why people might be hating on them. The podcast starts to get interesting near the end when they discuss a tweet Keemstar made.
He's attacking Anissa, which is what he does. He calls...
I've been witchified. I've been witchified by Keemstar.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, basically he's calling you a witch.
Yeah, because she's the red witch.
Yep.
And how dumb of you for thinking that's what he's saying.
Wait, true, I know.
Implication doesn't exist.
How you just said that about yourself.
Hold on.
I
just sent a picture.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it. Well, anyway, he really hates women. He calls Lena, AB's wife, a witch.
Well,
don't
worry, we hate him too.
Yeah, exactly.
This is becoming a more than regular occurrence at this point. Keemstar posts a picture to Twitter and straight away, like a hungry fish, you guys take the bait. This is exactly the reaction he wants. And he's going to keep doing it because you just keep handing it to him on a silver plate. Anybody with common sense would just ignore it. It's bait. It's worth less than a fart in a jacuzzi. But not here. We've got to point it out, drawing even more attention to it. And I'm no fan of Keemstar myself, but resorting to ad hominem attacks won't do anything to back up your side of the argument.
He really hates women.
In other words, attack his argument, not him personally.
I've been with him for through two content cops, and I help,
Yeah, a lot of people's, I guess criticism is like, that witch or that, changed him, or
a lot of people,
things have gotten bad since they've gotten together, type thing.
A lot of people attack Anissa. People are obsessed with...
Well, they just don't understand that she's been helping me create videos since we got together, and a lot of the videos that people love are with her help and involvement.
Calling you a witch isn't a critique. It's just people on the internet being people on the internet. This sort of thing is to be expected when you're in the public eye. Not everyone is going to like you and not everyone is going to be nice about it. It's sad, but it's true.
Billy, build a bridge and get over it.
But this is something I've noticed with some of the more egotistical members of the YouTube community. Instead of responding to actual critical opinions, they'll pick out the arseholes being arseholes in the comments or on Twitter and proclaim they're being hate mobbed, shielding themselves from any sort of actual criticism. Most people didn't even know about Anissa back when iDubbbz was still making good content. When we watched the Tanner Mongeau content cop, we just assumed that it was one of his mates or his girlfriend filming, but that didn't factor into our enjoyment of the episode. Maybe Anissa changed him, maybe she didn't. If she did indeed help produce some of Ian's most iconic content, then it's a shame that she's fallen down the same hole as Ethan and Hila. Maybe fame and money changed everybody around this table. Maybe there's just something about California that scrambles the brains of anybody who moves there. I can't say. And now we reach the crux of the matter. The discussion turns to iDubbbz's former content, namely the content cop on Tana Mongeau. Now, anyone who was around at the time, God, I feel old saying that, it was only 5 years ago, remembers what a big deal it was and how popular the video was. So what do you think Ian and Anissa think of his old content? The sort of content that really helped build his career?
I also take ownership for the Tana. The Tana thing was my.
Oh, that was so long ago.
Was my idea. Was my stupid idea.
Yeah.
I was the one that
suggested, like, we can go to the place. It's just in San Francisco. I'm like, it is just in San Francisco.
Yeah, that drive and everything. And now I think back to it, I'm like, I can't believe we literally harassed an 18-year-old child at her show. It's like kind of.
I guess when you put it that way.
It is. She was very
horrendous.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. It's probably like my most embarrassing. Like it is. It's fucking embarrassing.
Did anybody else sigh there, or was it just me? Harassed an 18-year-old child? Oh, give me strength. You can't call her a child. She was 18, for God's sake. Can we not be critical of YouTubers who are 18? And what do you mean harassed? You paid to go to a public event, paid extra for VIP tickets.
I'm VIP!
Paid for merch.
So do an impulse buy of our merch while we were there.
We did, yeah.
And we loaded up on the merch, like in the line.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Waited in line to take a picture, and then you said the pro gamer word, which was ultimately your way of pointing out her hypocrisy. And it made it even funnier when Tana completely over-exaggerated what happened, only for the actual footage to come out a few weeks later.
Walks up to me and he kind of like locks his arm around me, like around my neck like this.
You could say, I personally wouldn't, that it was in poor taste, but it's hardly harassment. Anissa states that it was her idea, though Ian quickly clarifies that it was her idea to go to the convention.
Was my stupid idea. Yeah. I was the one that
suggested, like, we can go to the place.
But then Anissa says that it's horrendous and that it's her most embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. It's probably like my most embarrassing. Like it is. It's fucking embarrassing.
Maybe this is why people dislike her so much. I can't say for sure. I know so very little about her. Now, I understand your tastes change with age. In fact, myself and my fiancée are almost 30 and our tastes have changed in the past 5 years or so. But the way Ian and Anissa talk about his past content just seems so over the top. They're acting like it's the most embarrassing thing in the world. Like the way you might look back on your teenage years and describe yourself as cringe. And they solely focus on the Tana Mongeau content cop. They hardly even touch on any of his other videos. What about his other content cops? Keemstar, Leafy, Ricegum, were all of these too edgy as well? What about Kickstarter Crap or Samurai Buyer? It's not a bad thing to want to switch up your content style, create whatever the hell you want to create, but don't do it while shitting on the content that built your platform in the first place. In the immortal words of 5 wise men from Manchester, never forget where you've come here from. They clipped this scene and put it on the H3 Clips channel with the title, Why iDubbbz Stopped Doing Edgy Humour, and I think the comments people left say it all. It's funny how both Ian and Ethan will have more N-words and F-words than Sam Hyde, yet he's this scary shunned boogeyman, while Ethan and Ian were all forgiven. I don't feel like Ian has to be edgy or over the top to be funny, but it feels like any willingness to take a risk for the sake of comedy is completely gone. It feels like the joke has been completely turned on him, and now he's the one who's generally uncomfortable in comedic situations, because there is a chance a no topic comes up. That was the vibe I got from the Creator Clash promo vid on Jeff Wittick's channel. I still like him and remain a fan, I guess, but he just seems off, and as a result, he's not as entertaining to me. I mean, I'm glad that Ian has matured and found his way throughout all of this, but also it feels weird to come back to those moments and think that the criticism levied at these people mentioned wasn't justified, like Tana, Ricegum, etc. aren't just important for the lore of iDubbbz as a content creator, it was a part of speaking truth to people taking advantage of their fans. Sure, an 18-year-old shouldn't have the whole weight of the internet against them, I absolutely agree. But even still, part of utilising edgy humour, for me at least, was that it exposed the hypocrisy of the content creators they were satirising. LOL, I'm a fan of H3, but Ethan saying as we've aged we realised that we want to conduct ourselves differently is pretty rich coming from him. The old H3 content was less hit piece and funny satirisation. Now his content is largely hit pieces and drama based, and the amount he blatantly comments on other people's appearance, weight, attractiveness, etc. is alarming, and is probably a projection of his deeper insecurities. That being said, I still like Ethan and love what he and Hila have created, but to say his internet persona has changed for the better is a stretch IMO. And those last two were the top 2 comments on the video.
But, I mean, it was things that a lot of people loved I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I can recognize why it was entertaining. I could also recognize why it was completely out of line.
Yeah. Part of, like, the history of, like, the channel and stuff, but definitely, like, I mean, as almost 30-year-olds, or he is 30, it's like you look back on that and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe we fucking...
It was a different time back then, fair.
I don't think it's fair to say it was that different.
It was just...
I think I was different, for sure.
Well, I think people have the same problem with me. Is it the same problem with you? Yeah. Is that we both used to be like edgy comedians and we were a part of the larger commentary community. And as we've aged, we've realized that, you want to conduct yourself differently.
Alright, hang on a second. I was a fan of H3H3 back in the days before the podcast. I think it's safe to say I've seen most, if not all, of their old content. But I'd never once described their content as edgy. They were known as the good guys of YouTube. They were the ones who stood up for people and called out bullshit or dodgy channels. Sure, they joked about stupid videos on the platform, but it was never anything harsh or edgy. I think the edgiest thing that Ethan's done is on the podcast, funnily enough, with iDubbbz, talking about the Tanamongu incident.
I love that I can just say Nick faggot though.
Maybe the one or two videos Ethan did with Filthy Frank, God bless him, could be counted as edgy, but I think that it's a stretch for Ethan to try and make his former self out to be something he never really was. It's no secret that Ethan and Ian have fallen out of favour with a lot of their former viewers due to the massive departure from their older content and the complete change in their attitudes. The reasons are similar, but not quite the same. Ian's content has changed, not for the better in my opinion. To me, it seems like he's shoveling out lazy, low-effort content and trying to be a less charming version of Brutal Moose, but that's just the way I see it. But at least Ian's still making content. Ethan's content has stagnated. It's just the podcast now. But Ethan tries to lump the two of them together regardless. People get mad at Ethan for being hypocritical on his podcast, and they compare it to how he was back before the podcast came along. This has nothing to do with edgy content, Ethan, just the content of your character. You made edited videos before, so you were able to portray the nice guy of YouTube persona. When the podcast started, either you stopped trying to censor yourself or your ego took over wholesale, and this gets you in trouble on a near weekly basis.
Everyone's mad at me again. Is that title Ethan gets canceled again?
I got canceled again in all caps.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
Last episode, people got really angry at. Let's say I made a joke that James Charles was wearing a diaper because he's a bottom. That, I guess, made people angry, and then a caller called in to explain why that whole thing is offensive, and I made insensitive remarks and jokes to him. I'll be honest, when I talked to the caller, I don't know why, I just couldn't really, I don't know why, I just couldn't really understand, but after the episode ended, I talked to some people that I trust their opinion, who have good inputs about this stuff, and they explained to me kind of what I said was offensive, and or they explained it to me in a way that I understood, and kind of what I said wasn't appropriate and all this. And they explained to me that I should probably apologize and explained why. And I thought that, I understood. So this is my heartfelt apology.
Again, nothing to do with self-proclaimed edgy content, just a terrible attitude.
Well, when you start interacting
caring
with the actual world and you're not in your bedroom creating sitting in your bedroom for 19 hours creating a hit piece on someone, basically, and you actually interact with human beings, you sort of realize that isn't really real life.
Personally, myself and my fiancée enjoy sitting at home creating content. She'll spend hours writing the script and editing. I'll spend time editing the script and recording the voiceover. We enjoy it. But it's not for everybody, understandably so. But Ian, that was what made you famous. Putting hard work and effort into editing and researching and ignoring social activities, at the end of the day it helped your career. It put you where you are now. Nothing worth having ever came easy. Yeah, that's not how the world works once you've become successful, and you can create any project you want and have a legion of fans support you. There are tens of thousands of people on YouTube putting time, effort and real heart into their own projects who won't even get a fraction of views that you get on your low effort, low tier videos. So, I don't know, maybe a modicum of self-reflection wouldn't go amiss here. I just feel that it wouldn't have been hard to say something along the lines of, yes, I don't hold the same views that I had 5 years ago, but I'm happy with the content I made at the time, and I'm fortunate that it got popular and put me where I am today, even if it's content I wouldn't plan on making again. It's better than shitting on the videos that built your career. But that's not the road they went down, and honestly, that's why we're here talking about it. So, moving past that matter, what other subjects do they touch on?
Also, I think, like, to be fair, like, the OnlyFans stuff, like, really was a huge wake-up call to both of us, like, emotionally what happens when, like, the internet kind of collectively shits on you.
Oh.
I'm not touching that with a 60-foot pole. Next caller.
God damn it!
I heard that.
We just want to take a moment to thank all of you who watched and liked our videos, commented and subscribed to the channel over the last few months. It's fantastic to see so many people enjoying the content we produce. We never thought the channel would hit over 1,000 subscribers in such a short time, so we'd like to wish a massive thank you to each and every one of you. We hope we can continue entertaining you for as long as we can. This video was made for entertainment purposes only and is just the expressed opinion of 2 people. Apart from the thank you, that bit was fact.